What's happening, people? I hope you're all well. So I've been meaning to make this video. I've been really busy, but Gennady Golovkin versus Canelo 3. This fight is, it's an interesting fight. It's been announced and it's going to be happening on the 17th of September. So a bit of time away from now. And I just want to sort of give my first thoughts on this fight. Gennady Golovkin isn't the fighter that he was when they had their first two fights, so that gives it a different element. I think Gennady Golovkin now is a lot slower. He was never quick to begin with, but he's definitely slower now. I think that perhaps he's more vulnerable now. We saw against Derevianchenko that he is vulnerable to the body, and I actually thought against Murata at the start of the fight that he was somewhat vulnerable to the body as well. So Gennady Golovkin really is a fighter that's on the decline, but as we saw against Murata, he still has punch power, he still has skill, and he is still a viable fighter with regards to, the top level. I believe this fight is actually happening at super middle. Let me just check that. Super middleweight. And I don't think Gennady Golovkin has ever fought at super middle. I think he's been a career middleweight. So that in itself, I'm just flicking through his box rate. I can't see him ever campaigning at 168 pounds. So it's going to be Gennady Golovkin versus Canelo 3. It's going to be at super middleweight, and Gennady Golovkin has never fought at super middleweight at least as a pro. So that in itself is another straight away a disadvantage for Gennady Golovkin, because Canelo, as we know, has fought at super middleweight and is coming down from light heavyweight. So Canelo's coming off a loss. Gennady Golovkin, on the other hand, is coming off a win, but Gennady Golovkin, as I said, is not the fighter that he used to be. And how is Gennady Golovkin going to cope with fighting at super middleweight for the first time against a competitor as good as Canelo? That is a huge thing. Who knows, maybe it's actually going to be to his advantage, because Gennady Golovkin is getting older. People's metabolism tends to slow down as they get older. So maybe Gennady Golovkin, has actually been struggling to make 160. It might not be something we know about, but maybe Gennady Golovkin has been struggling to make 160 more so now than in the past. And maybe 168 may actually be beneficial to him. We don't know. But there's definitely an unknown there with regards to Gennady Golovkin competing at super middleweight. Canelo coming off a loss at light heavyweight, coming back down to super middle. We know Canelo can fight at super middleweight. He's got wins against Caleb Plant, Billy Joe Saunders, Yildirim, Callum Smith, and Rocky Fielding. So we know Canelo can fight at super middleweight. I'm not going to go too much into detail about who I think is going to win. I'll do that later on, but I think that I will say that Canelo certainly has many advantages going into this fight. He's used to super middleweight. He's the younger guy. Overall, I know that he's coming off a loss, but overall his form is arguably better than Gennady Golovkin's. If you look at the last few fights for each, looking at Canelo, he lost to Dimitri Bivol, that was wide, that was at super, that was at light heavyweight. But Caleb Plant, that was a decent performance. Billy Joe Saunders, that was a decent performance. Yildirim was, that was here nor there. Callum Smith was impressive. He was out jabbing the bigger man in that fight. And Kovalev, that was a fight where he was competitive throughout, perhaps, and then he managed to get Kovalev out of there. And Daniel Jacobs is a good win, whereas Gennady Golovkin, you got Murata, that's a good win. Camille says Murata, I don't know if that's how you say his name, but that was not the best opponent. I think he's gone on to pick up multiple losses. I think he's gone on to, you know, he fought Jaime Munguia and got knocked out, and he recently fought a guy with a record of 9-2. I don't know much about him, but that was a majority draw. And he recently fought another fight where he got a KO win. But either way, that guy's not the best fighter. So Gennady Golovkin got a win against that guy, and he fought Derevyanchenko. I think he lost that fight. And then he fought Steve Rolls, who's underwhelming. So I mean, Steve Rolls ain't terrible, but he's not a top level fighter. So overall, I would have to say that Canelo probably has the better form despite the loss against Bivol. Plus he's the younger guy, plus, you know, he's going to have the favoritism with regards to the judges and the referee, and he's going to be the home fighter. So this fight really is a fight that favours Canelo. One thing I will say though, him coming off a loss, perhaps that will dent his confidence somewhat, and seeing Canelo lose may spur Gennady Golovkin on. But either way, the fight is happening. It's happening on the, let me just see that again, the 17th of September. Let me know what you think about the fight. Let me know who you think is going to win, and I'll cover this fight a bit closer to the fight. So like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. Hit the notification bell so you get a notification when I make a new video, and I'll see you on the next video.